Okay, for those that have joined us, thank you. My name is Kola Olutimehin, also known as getKOLA, GETKOLA. A lot of times people ask me, what does getKOLA stand for? And I always say that the kola in getKOLA is got its own specific meaning, where you have K standing for knowledge, that the knowledge that we always desire is not general knowledge, but that which will be beneficial for us later. O stands for opportunity. Opportunity is about you being able to find the way for yourself and create your own opportunities, not sit around waiting for opportunities to come your way. L in the kola stands for leadership, that you are responsible for your own life and destiny. Don't wait for anybody to dictate that to you. And A is action, without which there could never be results. And today, getKOLA is me, as I said, and we're talking in conjunction with Makeway Global. Makeway Global is a consulting, training, and coaching organization where we teach and use actually a lot of professional trainers who are very versed in whatever they do, and they teach various models and accreditation material, which we not only teach, but we also help people to be able to implement it when they get to need to use it. So it's not just about certification. So it just goes with the K that I said in kola, which is knowledge which can be used to get results. And so today we're going to be talking about the Lean Six Sigma. And in Lean Six Sigma, we are going to be seeing what it is as a quality tool, talk about that very, very briefly. And also, we're going to be talking about the importance of how you can use it in whatever you are doing, as well as within your organization that you're working for. So a lot of it's going to be targeted towards corporate. And so we are going to be talking about Lean Six Sigma. Again, it's from Makeway Global that I am speaking. Now, in addition to that, just as I said, we are a consultancy and training organization. We offer training on various modules, and the Lean Six Sigma, of which the first belt, it's in what we call belt levels. We have the white belt, the yellow belt, the green belt, the black belt, and the master black belt. But we are planning on doing a yellow belt course on the 25th to 26th of September, Friday and Saturday, and it's a 2-day course. My team has ensured that we make some form of discount available for those that are joining in today, and so that discount kicks in for 50% of the published price, and so you will be able to have that available, and we will make all of that information ready for you. So let's go with what we are talking about today and what quality relates to. And you just bear with me, because what I'm going to be doing is, for some reason, I am not seeing chats on the online, but I'm going to be trying to see how I can get others to pass that information to me. And so if there are any questions, then I'll be able to see those as they come through. So we did say we were talking about Lean Six Sigma as a quality tool. First question is, what is quality? How do you see quality? If this was, I'd like some comments to come on as what you think quality is. But let me just start by giving an example. When we talk about quality, say for example, you've asked your tailor to make a particular outfit for you, and you've agreed what should be done. And then the tailor brings the outfit for you and says, here it is. Included in what you had agreed, the tailor had actually put in what they think you will like and decided for you. It's probably some of the things that they have sold well before, and they feel that you will like it, and they had added it into it for you. Now, the question is, you could either reject it and say, oh God, no, I didn't ask for this. Or you could happily accept it and say, wow, it actually makes it better than what I'd originally imagined. And so from that point of view, if you reject it, it shows that the quality has not been, your requirement for the quality has not been satisfied. If you accept it, it means they have done something beyond your expectations, and it is enough for you to now start singing the praises of that tailor as to what they have done for you. And so when we begin to look at quality, the first thing you need to think about is satisfaction to the end customer. Is the end customer satisfied? Now, I don't know if some of you know what ISO is. It's the International Standards Organization. Now, in the International Standards Organization, you have a definition for quality. And what the definition for quality is the importance of making sure that whatever the organization is producing and releasing to the public is in line with what the customer, the end user, is expecting, as well as meeting regulatory requirements in order to do that. Quick example, if you were running a school, for example, we'll be talking about, is it meeting the needs of the parents and of the children who are attending the school, and is that school ensuring that they're meeting the regulatory requirements for running a school in that city or in that place. So quality is about meeting the expectations and more so expectations of the customer. Quality can be defined as conformance to specifications, the degree to which a product meets the design specifications, which would have been stated beforehand. A satisfaction factor that fulfills the expectations for a customer. And so it is about meeting expectation. When we now take it into an organization, we start looking at how many times does an organization produce something for you, a service, a product, and are able to meet what the expectation of those who are buying it are saying. And so if, for example, you made an order for a product and that product comes to you, when that product comes to you, if you have to return it because of a defect in that product, it means that it was not met. Also, if the customer had been told that they will get it within 2 days and they don't get it within 4 days, again, it means that quality is not right there. And so this is where things begin to stem from, where we start to talk about quality. So quality is ensuring that we meet the customer's expectations in terms of the satisfaction they get from the product, in terms of getting it when it was said they will get it, and various other things. And pardon me if you see me looking down, it's because I'm making sure I'm looking at my phone, just in case I'm getting messages and chats and questions while this is going on, because for some reason, I am not able to see the chats that are being put on the screen, if there are any there at the moment. So I've got people who are sending me this information if need be. So that's where quality stands, and that's where we get a definition of, or in terms of what quality really means from the standpoint of the regulatory requirements. So let's now talk about Lean Six Sigma. What is Lean Six Sigma? Again, just to emphasize, Lean Six Sigma is a quality management tool. Lean Six Sigma is a fusion of two separate methodologies. There is Lean and there is Six Sigma. And when we look at the two and what they're doing, it now makes sense from the point of view of consultants to merge both of them. Lean in itself started from the manufacturing industry. Primarily, it started from the Toyota production system back in 1950. 1950, we'll say 1948, 49, 50. That's when lean started after the Second World War. It was not called lean, and in fact, in Toyota, they never used the term lean. It was later in the mid 1980s that some researchers in the university in the United States of America were comparing the difference between the motor vehicles that were coming out of Japan to what was happening in the rest of the world. And so they were trying to understand what the differences were and what was going on. So primarily in lean, it is looking at the process of getting through to an output to a customer. What the Toyota production system focused on was this. Prior to the end of just after, I suppose, firstly, after the First World War, a lot of organizations were trying to see what was going on in terms of car production. And the organizations that were leading the world were based in the United States of America. It was the Ford Motor Factory and it was General Motors. And so teams were being sent to the United States of America to see how they were doing things. Prior to Ford, the motor vehicle was based on what was called the craft technology. And in that, it was very expensive to build a car because you needed experts to build parts of the car and then to assemble it and to not be sure exactly of how it will operate, etc. And so because of the expense that was involved, and which started in France back in the time, it was expensive to be able to own a car. And only the very rich owned the car. Henry Ford, who had very little education by himself, he had this dream that he wanted to make the motor vehicle something that was available to the average American. And so he was thinking about how it could eventually come into what was referred to as the mass motor vehicle production. And so by 1917-18, he had really hit what he was wanting to do. So by about 1921, General Motors had jumped on the bandwagon of this. And so they were doing mass production of motor vehicles and clearly leading the world. And so the Toyota family, who owned the Toyota, they wanted to see what was going on as well and sent some to the United States of America. Fast forward, let's go to the post-Second World War, where Ichiro was sent to the United States of America to see what was going on in there. Bottom line is, by the time he came back and went to a guy called Taiichi Ono, who is the production director, who was the production director at Toyota, he talked about what he saw in the United States of America. And primarily what was happening with the mass motor vehicle production was that it meant that different people were doing different parts of the car and doing it very, very quickly. And so if, for example, your job was to be able to fit the wheels in the car, all you do is take a wheel, take a tire, put it in the car, move on to the next person who will put the door, put the handle, etc., etc., etc. And at the end, they then check to see whether the car had met the requirements to be able to be sold. Having done all of that, the car is sold and mass production continued. And so in order to do that, you would need stacks of tires, handles, doors of whatever model you are making to make sure that they're all ready as they pass on to you, they are carrying on. There were some things that the Japanese looked at and thought, this is really good. But there were other things that they felt, I wish we could do this better. For example, they said the Second World War has wiped us out. We don't have money. In order to have stacks and stacks of inventory to put together, we will need to put a lot of money to put that inventory together. And so we cannot begin to do that. And so the focus was, how can we carry minimum stock? Some of you may have learned the term JIT, just in time. And that's how they began to think of, I will get it when I need it. And in fact, as the Toyota production system grew, they began even to acquire some of their suppliers, so that they understood how it was important that they were not carrying a lot of stock and moving to the end, and being able to get what they need when they required it, just in time. The other thing that I would highlight that they also looked at was, hang on, if we are only looking at this at the end, when is it that what if we find a problem? It's going to be harder to trace where that problem started. And so the question was, where do we find where the problem indeed lay? And so they thought, it is important before we move from one place to another that there is a check to make sure we're not passing on inefficiencies to the next level. And these inefficiencies, in the Japanese language, they called it muda, M-U-D-A. So muda, they hated muda, and so they had 7 categories later of what muda was. And what was important for them was that when we eliminate what they called non-value adding activities from a system, the system will flow better. For example, if we're saying that in order to get to point B, we must go to point C first, what's the point? And I'll give you an example of an organization that we worked with. There's this organization. Someone in point A produces a document, and in Excel, sends it to another person, say call it point B, who takes the document, converts it to Word. And then point C then receives that document and reconverts it to Excel. And because that's the way they've always done things, it always flowed that way. So when we then found out that actually point B that got this document from point A as an Excel document and then changed it to Word, had nothing that they were adding to this document. And then point C then gets it and then reconverts it. The question was, nobody ever looked at all of those and say, but there was no point going to point C in the first place, even if they hadn't changed the conversion. All of the time going to point B first and then coming back, all of that is what we call muda, waste. And so it was important to eliminate that waste. And to make the story even a bit sweeter, the person in point B was somewhere in Asia. The persons in point A and C were both in the same building, different floors, in the United Kingdom. And so it just shows you that there are some established things that are being done that we use to maybe just make the process even more complicated. So point is, with respect to the Toyota production system, it was the importance of making sure that we get rid of muda and being able to trace a flow. Now, I was talking about the research that was undertaken by some researchers in the university in the United States of America, comparing car production in Japan to the rest of the world, and they did a detailed research around the world. The conclusion was that not only were those that were Japanese made better in terms of durability, yes, they did them cheaper, and also they produced more in quantity in the same time compared to others around the world. And so it was a case of, how are these people? They're doing them cheaper, they're doing them better, and they're producing more quantities. How are they doing it? And it was through that, when they saw that they had streamlined processes, for example, cutting off that point B first before it came to point A, and then we did rework. Cutting off all of those things made sure that we were getting what we needed into the next process to eventually get to the customer. And again, making sure that things were checked before it moved to the next lot. And so lean is about making sure we create a flow, getting rid of muda until the customer can get what they wanted. And so in terms of Lean Six Sigma, as I said, it's a fusion of two methodologies. One, making sure that the flow is right. And so there are a number of tools and techniques in Lean that we talk about, especially when we talk about the yellow belt, or even when we do a white belt course. In Six Sigma, the United States of America, they have this thing that we are just going to be at the top of the game at all times. We've got to make sure that we are there. We're seen to be leading the pack in whatever things we are doing. And so the United States of America, they began to put in their own ways of looking at things, and it was statistical in nature. And that's the Six Sigma. So the statistical nature of Six Sigma meant that, let us see the outputs that are coming out of this system and ask ourselves the question, how many are defective products out of what we were doing? And so it really came out of Motorola. And in Motorola, it's a case of you saying, for example, if we're producing 10,000 products and we're having to throw 100 of them away because they did not work well, it means there's something wrong with our system. So they were looking at the end products, using it to judge whether it was necessary or not. And so with the focus of Lean, which is making sure that what the process flow was doing was right, and the one that was checking that there was a limit to the defective products, then it made sense to look at all the various tools and techniques to then combine into Lean Six Sigma to ensure that an organization's quality management system is making sure, from the point of view of the quality that I was saying at the beginning in terms of the definition, is making sure that we're able to satisfy our customers. And the more you can satisfy your customers, the more that they talk about you, the more that the business is winning against the competition. So the quality aspect of it is beating the competition. I'll tell you a quick joke about this. Apparently, I heard about a particular organization. It was an American organization. They wanted something from a Japanese organization. And they said to the Japanese organization, we want so many products, but we allow for you to also have about 1% or thereabout in defective products. So because they're thinking, okay, there's got to be always defects. So the Japanese organization thought, interesting. We don't understand why they're asking for defective products, but we'll have to change the system to make sure that it produces defective products so that we can give it to them, because that's all they're asking for. Again, making sure that you give to the customer what they say they want. So the system churned out the normal things, and then they added the defective product and say, here you are. This is what you have asked for. A point I'm making is, when you talk about the importance of what lean is doing, trying to make sure that whatever what goes through your system, it comes out right, as opposed to ensuring that, okay, let's see if we have some defective products. And so the Six Sigma, which is statistically based, helps us to do some calculations to try and identify how we are able to satisfy our market, and to see whether we're 1 Sigma level or 2 Sigma or 6 Sigma, which means that we have 3.4 defects per 1 million opportunities to have a defect. So if there are a million opportunities of having a defect, we have only 3.4 defects. That gives you 6 Sigma quality, which is saying you're world standard. And so Lean and 6 Sigma coming together is saying, let's make sure that everything in the process is flowing right, and make sure we're not having defects or dissatisfaction to the customers at the point of the end. So as a quality tool, that is what Lean 6 Sigma is about. And so Lean 6 Sigma is working with organizations and saying, where are you having problems? What is going on? Let us show you some of the techniques that you can use to try and correct that process. So you say, for example, we are delaying, we have promised our customers that they will get something in 24 hours. And so, but unfortunately, we've been getting it to them in 36 hours. If we're getting it to them in 36 hours, we want to go through the process in detail. What is it that we're doing? What are the mudas along the way that is now giving it to us in 36 hours rather than the 24 that we expected? So when we study all of that, we can begin to work towards an adjustment to the process so that it can come out within 24 hours. And that's what it is based on. Now I'm just going to look and see whether there's any questions coming on, because this is meant to be a question and answer session and not me just spouting off and just telling you the whole story about Lean 6 Sigma, of which the Yellow Belt course is a 2-day event. The Green Belt, which is the practitioner level, is a 3-day further on event. And we could have a combined Green Belt course, which is 5 days, of which 2 days we have the Yellow Belt course, or the combined. When we do the combined, we have the 5 days, and at the end of the 5 days, you sit the Yellow Belt exam to get the accredited certification from the International Lean 6 Sigma Institute. And for the Green Belt later, we then expect you to be able to submit an improvement project from your organization, which justifies that you know how to use the tools that we've taught you. And we don't just leave you, we give free support for that to happen, and then you get issued the Green Belt certification. And that's how we've been working with organizations around the world in terms of what we're doing. I'm just going to have a very quick break and just check to see whether I have any questions coming up. For some reason or the other, when we did the test earlier on before we went live, I could see questions coming on the screen, on the comments, but right now I am not seeing any. So let's see. I do not see any question here. but there's indication that there is a question, but I do not see it here. Okay, I see it on a different place. Please keep it on the normal chat so I can see it there rather than moving around. So there's a question here which says, so quality is relative. Yes, quality is relative in terms of what exactly do you want? And I tend to give this example. Now, please don't run mad with this very is very way out example. Okay, no, let me tone it down a bit. I'll tone it down a bit. If you are a farmer and you're working in farms, you agree that one of the things that you need will be trucks to be able to move things around. And so you've asked for a truck. And rather than get a truck, you've been given a brand new Peugeot car, motor vehicle car. From the point of view of quality, that is terrible and bad quality, because you cannot use that Peugeot car to do what the truck can do, and so it does not serve you. Others argued, oh, I'll take the Peugeot, I'll sell it and then buy the truck. That's not the point we're talking about. But from the point of meeting the customer demand, in terms of when they want it timely and being able to do what it needs to do, quality is indeed relative. And so we must be able to look at it along those lines. What did the customer ask for? Did we satisfy the customer's requirement? I have another question here. It says, can Lean help us to achieve 100% quality because there is always some error to be handled? How does one compensate for that? Now, that is a very interesting question. Again, let's go back to the definition of quality. 100% quality. 100% quality means the customer got it and said, this is exactly what I want. So some of the things that Lean, well, shall I say, the Toyota production system began to do was not just push vehicles to the market. They not only backward integrated, they also began to look ahead and ask, what do customers want? And so they began to get definitions of, oh, they will have the boot open like this, they will have the door open like this, they will have these things. And so they began to put those into the vehicles in terms of it. And so they began to change their processes in order to be able to churn out what the customer wants. So once you're certain, in fact, when we talk about the 6 principles of Lean Six Sigma, the very first one is always, what is the perspective of the customer? And by the way, when we talk customer, we're not only talking about the external person that buys from you, but within an organization, there is also the supplier, the customer side of it. And I'll give you an example. If something is meant to be coming out of HR and going to finance, finance is a customer of HR. And so HR should not give what they think finance will want. They should know what finance will want, what will work with their systems, and be providing that. And so what happens is they system within must make sure they get it right all the way to the end customer. And that way, if you can get all of those things right, by all means, you are getting 100%. But of course, you need to bear in mind that things change, products change, systems change, and you should be ready to be and willing to bend to the change that is coming upon you, the ones you expect, the ones you don't expect, in order to continue to churn out that 100% quality where nobody has a single complaint, and making sure things are running all the way through for all the varied levels of your customer base. I hope that has helped that question. So the focus on customer is always very important. I have another question here. It says, how is Lean Six Sigma applicable in, I'm just going to rephrase, in the health system? Absolutely applicable. We have worked with health organizations. In fact, right now we are working with a particular health organization in Nigeria. And one of the projects that was brought to me even in this last week was about a particular product that health insurance systems are not taking into account because of the relatively cumbersome process that is involved in being able to satisfy the customer. And so there's virgin territory, and they're looking into being able to get into it. And so we went through in our coaching session, by the way, this was even a free coaching session, to talk about what the process that is involved. And so I gave them the importance of being able to look and be able to engage with the process that is involved in order to see what the thread of it all is in order to get the product out. So in health systems, in whatever you are doing, you can see the process. What is the process of churning it out? In everything that we do, processes are involved. If you're planning to get out of your home early in the morning at a particular time, you have a process from when you wake up, or even from before you go to bed, as to making sure that you get up at a certain time, what you're going to do in the bathroom, get yourself ready, etc. There is a process all through. Your process of brushing your teeth may be different from another person. So there's always a process. And so when we look at the health system, if we're saying that the problem we're having is that people are being given the wrong prescriptions, we will then look at the process of giving the prescription. If it starts from the doctor, we're going to say, okay, the doctor, what is the person qualified enough? Or have they updated their systems enough, or updated their knowledge enough to be able to make sure that they're given the right prescriptions? So in the health system, you look at all of those. Or if you're saying when people come to your surgery or to your hospital, that people are waiting too long before they're seen, again, we'll look at the process of seeing people. How long, what is it taking, what is the availability of people there? So there are a number of things where we look at the process. And so the answer to your question, in terms of lean, it's looking, and more or less, because when I talk about the process, we also use process maps. There's a process map that's called a SIPOC, which is a high level thing. And there's also what we call the swim lane diagrams, as well as the main process flow. All of these things we teach at a Lean Six Sigma course to show you how you can have a visual of what that process is doing, a visual image, and be able to see that, okay, If I look at this process map, I can see where our problem is. Things are moving from here to there and making it unnecessary. Just like I said about the example about from moving from point A, then to point B, then to point C. If we're doing that, what was the point of that point B in the first place? We can eliminate that. And so in a health system, we need to understand what the process is involved and be able to then deal with the process that we are looking at. And so those are the questions I have had so far. I don't know if that has helped those who have asked those questions, but of course we are able to deal with them even in more detail later. So we're working. In fact, there's another health organization that's approaching us that we are wanting to work with in terms of making their processes right. And what this does is, just as I gave you the example of lean and the research that was done in the 1980s. By the way, if you're looking for a good book that talked about the beginnings of lean on this, is a book that is called The Machine That Changed the World. The Machine That Changed the World. It documents all of this history that I have told you about. And so when you're looking at making processes right and doing things the right way, you definitely will need lean. And it's something that you can apply very, very, very quickly. Very, very, very quickly. Whether you are at the lower cadre of your work, or medium, or the high level, you can apply it. But we always say, very importantly, it's so good that the top echelon of the organization are able to buy into it, and then they can drive the Lean Six Sigma methodology, because it is a culture in itself. It's a culture of what we call continuous improvement. Continuous improvement, the Japanese call that kaizen, K-A-I-Z-E-N, of making small improvements over time, and that everybody should be involved in making the improvements. And some of the culture that the Western world businesses need to understand is thinking and being able to do things right is not reserved for those who are at the top, but those who are actually doing the work, they have even a lot of expertise and should be involved in making changes, in making improvements. And so it's very important from a culture standpoint that we empower people at different phases and different junctures so that they can be involved in the improvement decisions of their areas. And that's one of the important things that is involved. And so when we do go to an organization, one of the first things that we do ask is, we ask for a half day at the very least with the top management of the organization. Because if we can get the top management of the organization to see what we're talking about, then they can help drive it through the middle management and onto what is called the shop floor. We say those who are the shop floor typically are the functional experts. I qualified as a chartered certified accountant, and of course I did start from the level of an accounts payable clerk back in the day in a hotel chain, but I knew I wasn't going to stay long there, and I did the clerical work first year as an accounts payable clerk. Then I did some income audit work. But my point is this, because I knew I was not staying on that, I was rising, and I was never able to post invoices like some of the people that had been there for years and all they did was post invoice. So they knew they had the speed, they had it. The understanding of what to look for, they had it. And but I was only in a limited form there and moved on quickly. So when we talk about if we're going to make a change there, we've got to talk to those people because they are the experts. They know how best to deal with things. And so in the culture of Lean Six Sigma, it is important that those who are the functional experts, those doing the work, they are involved with the improvement process to make those changes. And so Lean Six Sigma goes down to the very nitty-gritty. In fact, the Six Sigma methodology, just as I said, was started at Motorola, and it is said that GE, General Electric, they were the ones that made Six Sigma very popular. And that was because of the drive of Jack Welch, the executive chairman of GE, who became the executive chairman for 20 years from 1981 to 2001. In one of his books, he said he met one machinist in one of the companies one day, and the guy said, I have been in this organization for over 26 years, and nobody had been interested in my brain and what I knew until Jack came along. Point is, those who are doing the detailed work, they know more, and we should use their brains. And these are some key things when we talk about the culture that is involved in the Lean Six Sigma initiative. We involve functional experts. And so whatever the organization is, it makes it work in that way. I have another question. Here, thank you, Femi. I've got a response from you and saying that you got the answer to the question about health. Thank you for your question there. You'll definitely love to do the course. Yes, by all means, we have the promotion will come out to you in terms of the 50% discount that we are also providing, and we'll love to work with the entire organization. There's also things that we could do with the organization. The question that I also have here is the program, Lean, differently structured for individuals and organizations, or it's just the method of implementation that's different? When you say structured differently, what we do is when we do a public course, now it's people that have come from different organizations, and so it's more on a general scale. However, we do try to engage them to the level by which they can do what is required. So for the yellow belt, it's just general knowledge, and our examples as much as possible will fit into all of those that will be there for the yellow belt. But when we do a combined green belt, we are focused on the improvement project that they will be doing later. And so we're thinking of how people are doing it in relation to their work. So if people have colleagues from work, then they're able to share and understand things together in the teaching setting and take it further. And then, of course, our support is still there after the green belt class. So in terms of individuals, when they come for the practitioner class, they also, again, they're working on their own improvement project, and we are supporting after the class as well and using that as a tool. So they have that as individuals coming to the class. But when it is for an organization, then our examples are suited right to the organization, as much as we know of the organization, and of course the input of those who are on the course. And so it works on those ways in that manner. I hope that helps with that question. Right. Any further questions? We've talked about different aspects of the Lean Six Sigma methodology. We've talked about the culture. We've talked about history. We've given an example of quality. We've talked about various aspects of it. We've said it's different philosophy. We've got the philosophies, the thinking behind it. We've talked about the methodologies. I mentioned a few techniques while I was talking. I talked about, for example, when you're doing a process map, you have the process map where it could be the high level site park, or you could have the swim lane diagram. The swim lane diagram is just showing who is doing what in their own swim lane. Sorry, you may not understand that, but these are things that we make clear. And then in a green belt class, people are actually doing examples of it. But in a yellow belt class, they're told about it, they know what it is, but when they get to the green belt class, they are actually working on it. In a combined yellow belt green belt class, they are working on it. And there are no prerequisites to do a yellow belt class. There are no prerequisites to do a combined yellow and green belt class. But if you're coming to just a green belt class, you must have passed an examination you must have passed by then an examination of the yellow belt. You must have passed the yellow belt before you can do that. And so it's very important to understand that with the culture, it is making sure we empower people to do a lot of the work. And I'll give you another example, or maybe not another example. I don't know if any of you have ever heard the name William Edwards Deming. And William Edwards Deming is an American statistician, professor, and he was involved a lot with the Six Sigma and etc. However, interestingly, a lot of what the Japanese knew and came to be experts on were taught by William Edwards Deming. And so he used to travel to Japan after the Second World War and was teaching a lot of them in terms of what they do. So when you talk about the Japanese and how good they are with what they do, it was not something that was entirely natural to them. It was something that they learned. And one of their best teachers, who was honored greatly in Japan. In fact, they wanted to give him monuments and make his name great, etc., etc. He rejected all of those things. But there's what is called, you might have heard, the Deming Quality Prize. And that's one of the things that I said, okay, you can do all of that, but he rejected a lot of things. But my point is, he said something. He said, 85% of reasons for failure to meet customer expectations are related to deficiencies in systems and processes rather than employees. And then he said the role of management is to change the process rather than badgering individuals to do better. It could not be better said in terms of what I've been saying about the importance of quality. And if you remember, like I said, even the International Standards Organization, ISO 9001, the emphasis of definition of quality is, are you able to meet customer expectations within even the constraints of the regulation that you're meeting? And so you would need to prove how your processes have been working and the response of the customer to get an ISO 9001 accreditation. And so Lean Six Sigma enables you to be able to meet that quality expectation, to meet that drive for quality. I hope that makes sense to you. Now let's see, just like I said, I've not been able to see the questions that have been coming up, but thank you for those that have sent questions to us so far. And I believe someone else has just sent me another question, and I hope those that are on the call and those who would eventually listen to the recording later, I are finding a lot of sense in what we have been saying. And of course, we've taken it down to the barest level. We've talked about your expectation from your tailor or your cobbler. We've talked about the technical language of what is happening there. So there's a number of things that we have been able to talk about. Now I've got this question here. Hello, I am an undergraduate college student going into my senior year and planning on getting a Six Sigma certification. From what I understood, I can get a green belt because of experience requirements, so I should just go for yellow belt. Is that true? Primarily, in a sense, that is true. But I'll tell you this. There are so many organizations, and in fact, even the institution that we are aligned with, that do a lot of examinations in order to qualify even to the black belt level. The Lean Six Sigma is license free. Nobody owns the product, and so anybody can just do it, and a lot of things are not controlled. However, if an organization is going to employ someone based on them saying, I am a Lean Six Sigma green belt, one of the first questions I will be asking is, right, you are a Lean Six Sigma green belt. Can you give me some examples of improvement projects that you've done and let me know what benefits that you got for the organization or for wherever it is? That will be important. So, from the way Makeway Global does it, we have examination-based yellow belt. However, for the green belt and the black belt, we do examine black belt, by the way, but it's all project-based as well. So the green belt, we say it's project-based because it's a practitioner level. And they do it. And I'll give you some points to buttress this view. I have mentioned Jack Welch, the executive chairman of GE, General Electric. Now, when Jack Welch, the GE, when they took on the Six Sigma, in fact, they poached the guy that was running it for Motorola, paid him more, brought him in, and they built an academy. And what they were doing was that they made sure that all of the managers, I have met people who have worked with Jack and I've been able to ask them some questions. All of the managers had to have a green belt certification. And from the point of view of those who were going to become managers, no one was allowed to be promoted to be a green belt to be promoted to a manager level afterwards without a green belt certification. However, the green belt certification was based on improvement projects that they had done. And so the GE took on, I think it was in 1986 I'm wrong. I think it was 1996 or thereabout that GE took on the Six Sigma methodology. By 2001, when Jack Welch was retiring, he gave a message to Wall Street. He said, We have trained over 80,000 of our employees, and we have done over 500,000 improvement projects. 2001. And the market capitalization of GE had grown by over 1,000%. So people knew the success of GE with respect to what they had achieved with Six Sigma. In fact, when GE took on Six Sigma, there were 4 phases. There's something we call the DAMAIC, which is define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. There were 4 phases. And those 4 phases were the measure, analyze, improve, and control. It was GE that added the D, the define, that gave us the DAMAIC. And so they really went into it. And so when people now saw the achievements of GE, Six Sigma became a very important quality thing. And a lot of consultants, university lecturers, various people all over now began to focus on selling Six Sigma training to organizations all over the place. And not only that, they were now certifying them by themselves with examinations. And so they had swapped the practical demonstration that produced improvements for examinations. Six Sigma grew stupendously as a global initiative till about 2006, 2007, when it reached its peak. After it had reached its peak, people now began to look and think to themselves. When I say people, I mean organizations. We've sent a lot of people to these courses and paid top dollar because they were charging heavily for it. Consultants made a killing. And we've paid a lot for these courses, but they return to the organization and they cannot do anything. And so people began to lose interest and faith in the Six Sigma initiative. And from my point of view, as a result of the way that consultants and trainers all over the globe had approached it. And that's why at Makeway Global, what is important for us is not just you come and pass exams, or to come and see our trainers and say, oh, fantastic trainers, they're good because our trainers are good. It's a case of when you've been trained and you go back to the real world where you need to put this improvement in. Can you do it? And we know that it's not possible for us to be able to teach you in 2-3 days or 5 days or whatever it is, and for you to go and deliver. That's why for a first improvement project, we coach people for free to demonstrate improvement and more so justify the amount the organization has spent in terms of them being able to attend the course with us and say, from the benefit that we got, we definitely have made money in terms of this. So in terms of the question as to, is it possible for me to get a green belt? Oh, yes, you can, from people who are doing exams all over the place. But from the point of view of Makeway Global, we want to actually arm you with something better. A demonstration to show that when I did it, I also used these tools to get something. And that's why we approach organizations and say we must deal with the executive first. And the very least that we do with them is a half a day's training. And the option they also have is 2 days training. And guess what? We have had organizations that have opted for the 2 days training of top executive. Needless to say that some of them are getting the results. And so I hope, I know I have extended this in terms of what I have said to this person who has asked as an undergraduate college student. So undergraduates, in fact, we work with some universities. When I say we, I talk about the International Lean Six Sigma Institute that we are accredited by. They also work with some universities offering the yellow belt exam for the universities where they're studying some of these things and getting the certification, the accredited certification, not just from the university, but from the International Lean Six Sigma Institute, of which interestingly there's a conference in Manchester in January next year, which we're looking forward to. So that's where that has been. I have another question here. Can one person trained effect the desired change required, or it requires a few trained in the organization before Lean Six Sigma training is effective? One person can begin to make a difference, and then people can begin to ask you, where did you get all this from? If I have any book readers in this place, I can recommend a book to you, The Leader That Had No Title. The Leader Without a Title is Robin Sharma's book, which calls for people to be able to lead without a title. So basically, you're in your organization and you're doing what is called the BIW, Best in World. You're doing the best you can. You're being an example in what you're doing. And so people will begin to ask. People will begin to want to learn from your example. So as one person, you can begin to do it. And then guess what? You're going to be noticed. Bottom, right, left, top, for good work. However, in terms of Lean Six Sigma, we get best results when the top has bought into it. Then they can drive it for the whole organization. That's where the best results are. It is when everybody is working together, driven by what the organization is doing, having a separate department, which is what we were trying to build with another organization, having a separate department that is helping to monitor all of these improvement projects, making sure that they are in sync and making sure things are working well. And some of the things that we also emphasize will be things like, don't think when you're solving a process area problem, you're not just thinking about your own area, because a solution in your own area might lead to a problem in another area. And so we're looking at all of those, what we call the stakeholder engagement, the stakeholder analysis, and all of those. You make sure that as part of the team that is involved, we make sure that everything is touching on whoever is concerned, so that we don't solve a local problem and then cause a bigger problem for the organization. I hope, Femi, I hope that makes sense. Olufemi, I hope that makes sense in terms of can one person trained affect the desired change required, or it requires a few trained in the organization before Lean Six Sigma training is effective. So I hope my explanation there has made some kind of sense to you. Yeah, any more questions? Any more questions coming up? Thank you for the engagement so far, and I hope that those who have been here have learned some things that are important. And let me just throw in an answer to another question that sometimes people ask. Generally, we have accountants. Oh, I see that. I see my good friend Dio there, and my good friend Patricia. I see something that on Mars that says that you're on there. And thank you for joining in. And my fellow chartered accountant friend, you know, a lot of times they will say we should cut costs. Cut costs. Lean does not believe in going to cut cost. However, when lean works, it eventually leads to reduced costs because you're getting rid of what was not necessary, what was non-value. When we focus on cutting costs, the problem is that we might end up cutting quality and sacrificing quality. But when we focus on looking at things that provide value, for example, let me give you another example of a mooder. How many reports, for those who are working in an organization, how many reports get passed to you for which you have absolutely no understanding of why they've been passed to you? How many reports have you been made to produce that nobody wants? But as far as you're concerned, you need to produce the report. Again, within organizations, you need to understand, what does your customer want? Customer defined as the recipient of your output. Whatever your process is churning out, who is receiving it? Whoever is receiving it is your customer, is a recipient of your output. What do they need in order to feed into their own process and get it? So once we can qualify that and get that right, then we can begin to streamline things and begin to get rid of non-value adding activities and tasks and focus on value adding ones, which is a reason why the research that I mentioned about in the book, which did say, which I told you about earlier, the machine that changed the world. In that research that found that the Japanese car production companies, they were not only producing better durable cars, they did them for cheaper and produced more in terms of quality within the same time compared to others. It was because they got rid of non-value adding activities. And so those things are very key when we talk about cutting away the needless tasks. So it's ensuring that we're not cutting costs. No. However, when we get to it, cutting off unnecessary things eventually leads to us cutting off our costs later. And that's what it relates to. I hope all that is making sense. Let's see, have I got any other questions coming through? And I hope that those who are watching this are able to make sense of some of these things in their everyday life, in work settings. I'm told no questions at the moment, and I'll just give you something. I'll just tell you something about pool in a moment, and help it to make sense. Was it January last year, I visited the Nissan factory. Where's the Nissan factory in? Sorry, I'm just trying to get the Nissan factory in the north of England. Oh God, sorry, I'm just gonna try and find it. Nissan factory. In Sunderland, I visited the Nissan factory in Sunderland. The Nissan factory in Sunderland, as you know, Nissan is a Japanese make. And in fact, I don't even know what they're going to be doing with respect to Brexit, because I know that they were saying at the time that they might have to relocate the factory out of Sunderland, which would be bad news for the United Kingdom. And if they do that, because obviously it depends on the rules of engagement, if they're having to serve all of, because they're meant to be serving Europe, it will really affect the workforce and all of that. But the point is, when I went to the Nissan factory with the team, we walked around and saw how things were being done. It's amazing how they've simplified a lot of things. It's almost amazing the way they put the engines in the cars, how it is important that they don't, regardless of the car that they were being putting in, they were getting the right thing coming in at the right time to put in that different type of car and to get the process moving around. Now, the process begins when someone walks in to a Nissan factory, to a Nissan showroom, car showroom, anywhere in Europe, and they order a car. When they order that car, it goes into a particular system in France, and it will show where they've specified the color of the car they want, what they want in the car, whatever extras, etc., the way they want the car. And all of this gets processed. And it then follows the whole thing as to when they're told when their car will be ready. And that whole process also shows when those things that are needed for their car will be ordered, up until it gets to the factory level when their car is being put together, the colors, the doors, and everything is being put together, the process that it goes through, and eventually that car comes out exactly the way they want it and it's checked out. And one of the things that's important from this point of view is that when we talk about Lean or Lean Six Sigma, remember I said that the focus of the customer is important. We need to, for example, understand who is our customer base. What do they want? And we can segment our customers into those that want this or want that. Let's say, for example, we're selling insurance services, life insurance services. We will say, okay, at this age, if we sell insurance services to them before they're 30, life insurance services to them before they're 30, we're expecting them to live till whatever age. And so they'll be contributing up until that time, if it's a life insurance that's not a termed one. If the person was 50 or something, then it means they'll have a shorter contribution, so they'll be contributing more in terms of money. If the person is a smoker, we're expecting that the smoker is going to possibly, per research, they die sooner. And so it is likely that they're going to call on their insurance, life insurance value sooner. So they will have to pay a bit more. And so once you've segmented all of these people, you understand how you deal with the different parts of it within your process. And so when you're completing it, the form online, all of those things have been built into the process so that you get a quotation that is taking all that into account. And so it's important when we are looking to satisfy a customer to understand as much as possible about the customer and then be able to serve them accordingly. And back to the motor vehicle part of it, you are looking and saying, what do they want? They've told you. And so your process has been able to do that in terms of delivering what they want. These are Lean Six Sigma models in operation. And in terms of whether customers are now complaining, that makes us want to now look at the process. What is it that is causing the complaints? Or I'm not getting it on time. Then you are now saying, okay, now let's put it on paper or visual, whatever visual, to see what exactly happens from one point to another. And I was talking about process maps earlier. When we talk about process maps, you can have a flow chart, whatever it is. When this task finished, it goes to this person, and this task begins. Then we can do what is called a value stream map onto the process map. Value stream map is asking more questions about the task. When did it get to you? How long did it take for you to finish the task? Who is doing it? What's their expertise? When did they pass it on to the next one? How long did it take from one person to start from the time they actually got it to them? So we're asking more questions, and that's what is in a value stream map. And so you look at these things and say, now I get it. Because they didn't ask the customer the right question, they had to look back and go and ask the customer again. It means that we've wasted time, something we could have done the first time, and gone back. And that's why we're not able to deliver to the time we had promised. So because we're doing all of those things, and it may just mean that all we needed to do was a tweak in our forms to give us enough information for us to make a decision for the customer. And so when you get forms like sometimes a form like where you're trying to submit something online and it would not let you submit because you haven't populated a particular field, what is happening there is in Japanese language they've put something called a poka yoki. P-O-K-A, poka, yoki, Y-O-K-E. A poka yoki is a mistake-proof system that you put in place to make sure that there's no disaster. And so if it's going to bring a form that has not been completed correctly or has issues with it, then we say, let's poka yoki it, so that unless they've given all of this, we can't work. So I'll give you another quick example of poka yoki. Now, I don't know that some of the people that are watching this may remember in the time when you could boil water on a stove and it could just boil forever, and if you forgot it, it will dry off in the pot, and you may end up almost causing a fire. Then it came a time when you get the kettles that will whistle to you, that telling you that this water is boiling. It was whistling. That whistle of the kettle is a poka yoki. That poka yoki of that kettle is what is called an attention type poka yoki, drawing your attention and saying you need to attend to something. Then later we got kettles that once they boil to a certain level, they trip off. That is a shut out poka yoki, which is saying when it gets to a point, it shuts out. The petrol light warning signal on your car is a poka yoki, telling you if you don't visit the petrol station, your tank is almost empty. And so you have various things. You're checking the engine oil light, for example, again warning you about the fact that your engine oil is low and could cause the engine to knock is a pokayoke. Now we also get the short out ones that will just seize the car from working because you have not responded to the light. So that's just some examples there. So I've just given you an example again of looking at the customer, which is where we call the pull, versus looking at when we're pushing things to the customers. I don't believe, this session for me, one of the important things is we don't need people who don't want to know about what it is. We don't want people to attend just because they want to show attendance. We don't need all of that. We need people who need these things. To these people, we want to give our time. And of course, if you're just knowing it for the first time, or as a reminder, it's still up to anybody to decide whether they want to go with the Lean Six Sigma initiative, which is delivering wonders. Just as I said before, we are not focused on getting people to just pass exams and say, well, yes, I'm a black belt, but you can't do anything. Gosh, so many people are not employed simply from that point of view, because we want to ask you, okay, for your black belt, what is it that you have done as an organization? At the moment we're working, actually I've been invited as part of a team to help certify some master black belts. And some of the things that we're also saying is, in order to certify the master black belts, they've got to give us 3 black belt projects that they've done. And when we talk about black belt project, we're talking about a project that covers all of the organization. So in a sense, it's a more kind of global view of a project. Give us 3 of those. And of course, they will also be able to teach. And so they will run sessions for us, etc. And it's all about demonstration of what you know in terms of making this work for yourself. So that's what it relates to. Any more questions? We've got this for 2 hours, and I can't almost. I've been speaking for the last 2 hours. I should have brought a drink here when I started, but I didn't think enough. But that's okay. I can still cope. But I'm wanting to see if there are any more questions coming to us, in order to see how we can help those who are here. And for those who are not here, I believe they can get the recording later. So we are still waiting to see if there are any more questions. And if there are no more questions, we might even consider finishing sooner, because I don't want to have to teach you the entire thing. Well, of course, if people want to do that. Okay. Now, we also do have a yellow belt course that we are running, a public yellow belt course. We have planned it with a 50% discount from our original price. My arms on it, and this includes the examination fees in there as well. So and by the way, I'm still yet to see those who are better prices than us in Lean Six Sigma at the moment, in terms of the live ones. So we do have a Lean Six Sigma yellow belt course coming up on Friday 25th and Saturday 26th of September. 2-day event. The normal price in pounds sterling is £1,020, which is highly competitive. But because we were doing this session, the team said it had to have some form of discount, and we thought we will actually make this a total giveaway, literally. And so if you want to consider doing that, the yellow belt course will be for 50% of that, which is £610. And the Nigerian Naira value, because we do have a Nigerian Naira value for it, rather than 399,000, I think we now I don't know what 50% of that is what we are doing. I thought we brought it to 195, but that would not be the case. It would be 399,000, or it will be 199,000 thereabout. So we do have the yellow belt course, of which once you've passed the examination, and again, the examinations are not designed for you to try to fail you. It's open book, and there are multiple choice questions. Open book, which means the notes that you have is what you're going to be using, and the exams are online exams. You'll be able to get your result immediately you submit. It's 50 questions. You need 70% to pass, which means you must get 35 correct. And you can refer to your notes in doing the exam, and it's for 90 minutes. A lot of people finish it in less than 60 minutes. Again, people have different ways of working. Some have done it in 90 minutes. But most people pass the exam. And you have the opportunity to retake it, should it be that you didn't. And we know that a lot of people pass those exams very well. So because of you, you have something which you can later, or which you can buy today and get the 50% discount, and you will have all of that information coming to you after the call today. I hope all of that is making sense in terms of what you're getting. Now I'm seeing a notification that another question is meant to be flying into me, and it's coming. There is another question. I haven't heard the question or seen the question yet, and I'm waiting for the question to come. And maybe I should say something more about Lean Six Sigma. Should I not? Should I not? What else can I talk to you about in Lean Six Sigma? You know, one of the things that we do in the Lean Six Sigma is what we call the daily stand-up. In a daily stand-up, which does not have to be every day, it's just something that helps the team to work. We have what is called the Kanban boards. The Kanban board is something that just shows the team how you're going on with the project. What are the specific deliverables? Who is doing what for that deliverable? Where are we with that deliverable? Is it something to be done, or something being done, or something done? And it gives us quick information. And when we come to a daily stand-up, we're looking at the tasks that we had assigned in the prior meeting. Have we done it? If we haven't, why not? Without stories, where are we? What is it that we are planning to do for by the next meeting? Are there any issues that we'll have in terms of not being able to do those, or are there the things that may prevent us? Those things are discussed after the meeting. And so a typical daily stand-up meeting is 10 minutes. Forget about all of these endless meetings at work that you don't even know why you were asked to come to that meeting, because it was nothing to do with you. No clear agenda. Again, time is of the essence. And so we need to ensure that we don't get ourselves into a muda situation as well. So it's some of the things that we look at about that. And so we will send some information to you. Thank you, Sharon, for your question. And your question. My question, in a country whose economy is more driven by SMEs, yeah, how can Lean Six Sigma help those startups to be more productive? Any systems primarily designed for this type of people? We have specific things called Lean startups. It is extremely helpful when people begin to understand what their deliverables are and planning and know what they need to be done. And so when it comes to very many companies doing things, it's again the way they think. You are going to be looking and saying, I am wanting to provide a particular service. Rather than running around after so many people, I need to be able to decide who my clientele are. Once you are able to decide that, then you already know those things that you're probably going to say yay or nay to. Because there's no point in people making you run around helter-skelter and end up not being able to do anything with it. It brings a lot of waste, a lot of muda. So you're going to be saying that, okay, this is what we've identified a customer base. These are the people we want to serve. Are they going to be able to do this thing, that thing, or that? If not, we can't serve them. And if you find that there's nobody that you are able to serve, then you have to then redefine your project. And one of the things that is important to bear in mind with startups is this. It's usually not as you had imagined it. But you've got to be able to have this thick skin and say, you know what? The fact that I did not get it right the first time does not mean I'm not going to keep trying for what I believe in. It's always a test of a belief as to whether you get it or you don't get what you want. You just got to keep going until you get it. It's a challenge, I know. But if you don't know what you're going to say no to, then you are going to be in a big problem for a long time. So it's important from the point of view of the SMEs, small medium enterprises. By the way, we have another meaning for SME. We call them subject matter experts, yellow belts typically. So for the MSMEs, etc., we're looking and saying that in terms of the thinking of lean, you've got to think about what is it am I providing? You're providing it because you already saw a customer base. Then think, okay, what types of customers do I want to focus on? And find a way to make sure that you're not spending too much time where it will end up becoming waste. And find a way to be able to make quick decisions that make you move forward. And so you have to have a process that says, for example, if you're setting up a printing thing, for example, okay, these are the people, these are the requirements for us to produce flyers for you. Is this what you want? Are these the things you want? If not, we're moving on. Then we know that, okay, you're probably not the customer base one, but we know that there's so many people that want flyers, and so we're defining the people that we also want to deal with. Otherwise, you'll get a lot of time wasters keep coming by and just wasting the little time that you have. I hope that, in a sense, kind of draws some light or helps in a way to the question that you have asked. I hope that's helpful. Anything else? Any more questions? You know, people talk about Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma as a quality tool. Let me just again look at another point from a view of the way we read figures or the way we read reports. Sometimes if they say to you that we're good with 99% quality in terms of what it is, it depends on what you're dealing with. The Six Sigma view, in the statistical view of it, because you know I said Six Sigma is about what we churn out eventually and how many of it is defective. So if we say we want 99% to be good, let me just share with you very briefly in terms of using the Six Sigma quality mindset, which is, if anyone did remember, statistically, you're doing Six Sigma quality when you say you have 3.4 defects per million opportunities for a defect. So there are a million opportunities by which you can have a defect, but you're only having 3.4 defects. That gives you Six Sigma quality. And that is a worldwide benchmark which you can use for any industry, any organization. There's a study that is out there where we say in the United Kingdom, 20,000 lost mail articles by the Royal Mail means 99% quality for them. If we lose 20,000, it is 99% quality. But if you're one of those 20,000, depends on what that post is that has been lost. When we look at it from the point of view of Six Sigma, we don't look at the 99%. We look at it based on 3.4 defects per million opportunities. And that equates to 7 lost mail articles. And this is per hour, by the way. 99% quality is 20,000 mail articles lost per hour. But when you look at it from a world-class standard Six Sigma, it helps you to have a level playing field in terms of looking at quality. Same thing was done with respect to surgeries carried out by the National Health System, the NHS. It says 5,000 incorrect surgical operations per week means 99% quality based on the total number of surgical that they do. But when you look at it from the point of Six Sigma quality, it's 1.7 incorrect surgical operations per week. And so we've had the privilege to help, in a sense, a very little part of some of the drive of NHS in terms of teaching of lean. And they have significantly, with the use of Lean Six Sigma, been able to reduce waiting times in accident and emergency wards within the NHS. It was Lean that they applied in doing that. So we have had some things that have been able to achieve some things there. So there are various areas by which we can look at it. So we're avoiding defects and errors. An error is something that is still within house, and a defect is something that has either hit the customer and we are now having to deal with that external customer. We're drawing to a close soon. We've got about 10 to 15 minutes, well, about 10 minutes left. So I'll just remind you again, we have this course being offered, the one we have on the 25th of September. Actually, let me just also say thank you, Patricia, for being on this call. Patricia is a yellow belter, which is says in her name again, is a yellow belter. Got your yellow belt at the International Lean Six Sigma Conference in January. So congratulations once again. And I hope you can spread the good news of Lean Six Sigma with all the others that you work with. In fact, yes, we did begin to talk about it, so we need to pull up our conversation again on that. So we have this discount, 50% discount for our course, which is valid for anyone till the 24th. Well, it's for the course on the 25th and the 26th. It's an online course, instructor-led online course, where you'll be exposed to more of what we have been talking about. And more so, there's no one that comes into a yellow belt class that does not have something that they can use to go and make improvements right away. And so, for example, you could even have the what you call it, the 5S, which helps you to tidy up certain things very, very quickly. I've talked to you about the Pokayoki, the mistake proof thing that you could use. So you have a number of things that you could be taking advantage of in there. So just as I was saying, we do have the yellow belt course, which is on Friday and Saturday, 25th to 26th of September. And you have a 50% discount on it. And as I said, we are, as far as I know, as far as I know, I don't know organizations that are doing such prices that we are doing in Lean Six Sigma. And as far as I know, well, I mean, some are doing it, but we emphasize the importance of you being able to use what you learn. And that's why with the Green Belt combined course or the post Green Belt course, you do have the coaching, the free coaching that goes with making sure that you get the benefit from the use of the Lean Six Sigma. We have seen Lean Six Sigma used in schools. We have in universities. In fact, one of my good friends who is a university professor is a fantastic guy who also teaches Lean Six Sigma. And in fact, we've talked about how we can help some other universities. There's some universities we are associated with in the United States of America that are teaching this Lean Six Sigma tool and yellow belt, etc. So it's happening and it's hitting industries, organizations all over the place. We've worked with insurance companies, we've worked with banks, we've worked with health companies, we've worked with various organizations, power companies, we have oil companies, we have worked with various organizations in terms of Lean Six Sigma, and people are getting results. So back to this discount that we are offering, 50% for the 25th and 26th. The discount code is available in the event description and will also be notified via email message within the next 24 hours, I have been told. And so we have all of this being available for you. in terms of Lean Six Sigma. Now, do we have any further questions? Do we have any further questions? I hope those who have been here. Oh, I've just seen Bisoe. Hi, Bisoe. And I can't hear you back, but it's good to see you. I hope anything that I've said there has kind of like made some sense in terms of what we are offering for the Lean Six Sigma in industries, whatever thing you're doing. Because what Lean Six Sigma is about is looking at what you're churning out and what is the process of churning out. So in everything we do, there is a process. So if you're going to cook, you have a process. Some people wash after the cooking. Some people wash after they cook. Various things. There is a process. So if some things are causing trouble, then you will change that process. And it's the techniques. We have a number of techniques. Mention a few as we go along. A solution technique, 5S. A solution technique, Pokayaki. Various things. Measure, analyze, value stream mapping, various things. So there are various things. There's no point me dropping names of these things that makes no sense to you. But it's saying that you can actually now visually see what is happening. And so many times in the measure phase, when we're doing this, so many times people run to conclusions and say, oh, look, that's where our problem is, when they draw up the process in the measure phase. But we say, wait, let's get to the root cause of the problem. There's a video that we usually show, and it's the one for the State Museum. I've forgotten it. But there's a particular building in the United States, a public building, which had been crumbling for a long time. And one of the things that we also teach is something called the 5 whys. And the 5 whys is asking, why is a problem? Why is a problem? This is us getting to the root cause of the problem. So this building had been crumbling for a while. And because the building had been crumbling for a while, they needed to do something about it, various wild things. But they began to ask, why is this building crumbling? And they found out that it's because they were using some jet wash thing to clean the floor. And why are they using that jet wash? Is because the pigeons that come to mess up the place in there, it's hard to get it off. And the next why are the pigeons there is because they've come to eat some of these things. Why are they there? So bottom line, by the time we got to the root cause of the problem, it was simply because of the light that was attracting some particular insects, which when they drop, some things will come and eat it, and etc, etc, etc. And so the answer was, turn off the light sooner. And they were able to deal with the problem. So the 5 whys is saying, okay, that ceiling is leaking, or just patch it because we found the leak. But why is it leaking? Or it's because there's something on the tiles. What's on the side? Why is it there? Why did we get those tiles? Or because it was the wrong quality. Why didn't we, etc. So it's getting to the root cause. So 5 whys is another thing that helps you to get to the root cause of the problem in terms of dealing with what you have. And so in terms of us running to a close, where I have 3 minutes to kill, and unfortunately I cannot talk to you and you talk to me. By the way, it's the first time I'm doing a live thing on Facebook, and I'd never done it, and so I kept on asking what was involved, etc. But it's happened. So, but we will strive to do various topics herein on, where getKOLA will work with Makeway Global in terms of getting all of these things doing. And for those who were at the beginning, I was able to tell you what getKOLA was. getKOLA is, there's a meaning to kola, and kola is K-O-L-A. K meaning knowledge. We talk about knowledge that we can use, not general knowledge. I don't believe in general knowledge. just for the sake of it. I want knowledge that I can use and make a difference with. And O is opportunities. I talk about you create your own opportunities and don't sit around waiting for opportunity. A real dreamer creates opportunities for themselves. And L is leadership. Without leadership is saying nobody should be running your destiny for you. You are in charge of your destiny, so be leader of your own destiny, personal destiny. And A, of course, is action, without which there will not be results. So if you're going to have the Lean Six Sigma journey, then feel free to join us on that walk with our 50% discount for the Yellow Belt course that we're going to be running on Friday 25th to Saturday 26th September this year, 2020, online, and you will greatly benefit from it, definitely. And you will also have the opportunity to have the examination done and have the accredited certification from the International Lean Six Sigma Institute. We will send you the discount code for this in order to be able to register, and you'll be given the access to register through our website or through all the various areas that we have the facilities available. So thank you so much for those that have been here. Thank you to all those that listen to it later on. And I look forward to seeing you move further and forward with your quality, being able to make sure that you give expectations to those who are working on your initiative, or serving your customers right, whoever your customer is. Thank you. Have a good evening. Take care. Bye-bye.